Hi, my name is Albert, and this is basically a crash course through your Microsoft Excel. And the nice thing about this course is it's basically there for people who can use a computer but would actually like to sharpen up their Excel skills. If you have various questions, you can ask them in the comment section below. And I hope you guys enjoy. This was initially supposed to be multiple videos that were broken up, but in this case here, I've just decided to make them all one singular video, and you'll notice that there'll be breaks in between, or the end of one video to the beginning of the next. But if you have any extra questions that you'd like to ask, you're more than welcome to ask them in the comment section below. And I hope you enjoy the course. Thank you for watching and enjoy. And various tips and tricks that you can use to actually accelerate your workflow. Now within Excel, the first thing you'll be greeted by is this home area. And inside the home area here at the very top, this allows you to create brand new documents based off of templates, or you can create a new blank document as well. Now these templates over here have got various formatting done, so various colors of the cells. For example, here on the far right, there's a seasonal calendar. And all these guys over here are housing formulas as well as various formattings that are happening and equations that someone else has typed out and saved as a template for someone else to then open and reuse. So you don't have to end up typing everything out again. It's always a very, very, very good idea to have a look at these templates as well, because there are a lot of them. For graphs, you'll see here there's a business filter over here, which then digs through all the templates to do with business, for example. But these are the templates that we find within Excel. Now in my case over here, I'll jump back to home. At the very bottom of the screen over here, these are all your recent documents. And these would be documents that you had already opened, and or documents that you had just created and saved as well would fall under recent documents. Now on the left-hand side of the screen, again, if I click here on New, you'll see it takes us to the New area with the various templates here at the bottom. There is Open, and Open over here allows you to open files that existed. These are all your recent documents. And on the left-hand side over here, we've got files from our cloud, which you could also add, or you could also browse, and this allows you to dig through your PC for various files. Just depends on where they're saved. Then you've got your stock standard save, save as, and so on down this menu. Now in our case here, we'll be creating a brand new Excel document. So in this case here, we'll just hit New, and we'll say Blank Workbook. And once you open up a blank workbook, you'll see at the very top of the screen, it's got the save icon, undo, redo. And what's happening over here, this is all called the quick access bar. And this just gives you quick access to things like new, undo, redo, new document, open document, as well as the name of the current workbook that you're in. In this case here, it's called book 4, as this is the 4th book that I've created today. And then the program next to it, Excel, and also shows that I've signed into my Excel. Now, other than that, you've got this area here, which is called your ribbon, which runs all the way horizontally across your screen. And inside the ribbon over here, it's got various things such as panels. And this panel here is our clipboard panel, font panel, alignment panel, number panel, and so on. And this just allows you to customize your interface as you're working. Now at the very top here, we also have tabs, which do change our ribbon and the information being displayed in it. Like so, I'm just clicking through them. And here at the very bottom, some of these panels do have extra options. Example, the clipboard here has got a small button that I can click on, which then expands it and shows me stuff that I've copied and pasted from. And also next to it, we've got font. If I click on font over here, it shows us all the various settings for font itself. So sometimes if you're looking for something in the interface and you can't find it, it's probably a good idea to click on this button here as well, and that just shows you all of the options available with that particular tool. Then beneath that, we've got this area over here, which shows us the name of the cell. And in this case here, you'll see it says cell A1, and that's the first cell that's been highlighted. If I click on a different area here, you'll see it says D3, which is cell D3 that's highlighted. Next to that, you also have the ability to actually click in here and you can actually type whatever's going to happen in that cell. So for example, if I wanted to write in cell B3, on the very top left over here, I'm just going to click on the small cancel button in red and I'll just type in B3, enter, and you'll see that my Excel will actually jump to that cell called B3. And up here, I can start typing hello, and I'll press enter, and in that case there, the word hello has been typed. Another way of being able to access this is by doing a single click on the screen, and it'll take you to that particular cell. And if we select once on the cell, that will allow you to highlight it. A double click will allow you to enter that cell itself, and you could change the information within that. But these are all little cells. At the very top of the screen over here, as I click through the various letters, what you'll notice is it's highlighting this whole area over here, and this is called a column. And you can see you can click between the various columns. And if you're clicking on the numbers themselves, these are all called rows. And that will then allow you to highlight an entire row of information or an entire column of information. And where each one of these rows and columns intersect one another, for example, C4, it's this area over here, and this chap would then be called a cell. Then at the very bottom of the screen, we've got these sheets over here, and as you click on this little plus here, this allows you to create multiple sheets. And in this case here, I've got sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3, and each sheet has got different information allocated to it. And when you guys are navigating through your Excel document, if you hold Control on the keyboard and you roll your mouse wheel forward, this will then zoom into the cells so you can have a much better look at them. And Control and roll back the mouse wheel will then allow you to zoom out to see as many cells as you can, or all your data at the same time. Now, at the very bottom right-hand side of the screen, you'll see here is a couple of buttons for different ways of viewing the documents, but what we're interested in is this zoom area. If we click and we drag, we can zoom all the way out or all the way in, depending on the position of your cursor along the bottom. Or you could additionally type in a percentage by clicking on here, and you'll see it says custom, and you could type in a zoom percentage, 50, this is at 50%. I'll click again, 100%, okay, and this zooms me in to 100% of my document, just depending on what you're looking for. Hi, my name is Albert. This is part 2 of the Excel basics. Now in this case over here, what we'll be looking at is filling out our various cells and the information within them. Now with Excel, for example, if I were to type someone's name, let's say Albert, enter, this will go down. Let's go Ben, enter, Tim, enter, Bob, enter, Jane, enter, Rob, enter, just due to lack of better names. Now in this case here, as you press enter, this allows you to go down along the Excel column. And over here in the next cell, I'm just going to type in some random ages. So I'll start here with Albert and I'll just say 40. Enter, Ben, 32. Enter, Tim, 25. Enter, Rob, 21. Enter, Jane, 20. Enter, Rob, 17. Enter. Now I've got a whole bunch of ages that I've entered into my Excel. Now that I've got all that information there, to sort the columns based on, let's say, age, for example, what we can do is you can actually highlight all of these cells, and this is achieved by a single click and drag down and drag to the right. That will highlight all of these columns. Then the next thing we could do over here is we could head over to the Data tab, and inside the Data tab over here, you'll see we've got this Get External Data panel, Get and transform, connections, and sort and fill. Once you're at sort and fill, there's a button over here that's called sort. And if you click on sort, this will allow you to sort the information in here. If we click on sort by, this drop down, you'll see it's got column A and column B, which column A over here, column B there. And if I click on column A is the column I'd like to sort. And in this case here, I can say sort order, and the sort order can be Z to A or A through Z. And if I say OK to that, it's going to resort my data in the column here on the left, and it's going to move the corresponding data here on the column B. If I'd like to do the same thing, but this time around with age, I can highlight both of these columns. I can go to sort, and in this case here, I can change my sort order to B, and then over here, it's going to go from the smallest value to the largest value, which I'll select, and I'll say OK. And now my data is again being reorganized, and you'll see Rob is now at the top with Albert here at the bottom. And that is basically how you can sort data within Excel. Now, something else that tends to happen with Excel is if you have dates that you like to type in, let's say 2020, followed by the year, 08, followed by the day, which will say 30, enter. This will then put in that date within Excel. Now, if I try to pull in the date for today, what happens with Excel is we can actually double click inside of a cell. Now in this case here, if you'd like to insert today's date, what we can do is we can double click. And with Excel, whenever you're typing in a formula, you must always start it with equals. So if I say equals, I'd like today's date, I can type in today because I know that's the formula that I need to pull today's date. If I just press enter, what's going to happen is Excel's looking at this and it's not understanding what we're looking for. And if I click on the small button over here, this exclamation mark, it just tells me that this is an error of some sort. And there are various error checking options that you can do within Excel. But in my case here, I know for a fact that the error is caused because our formula is not complete. What we need here is it says today, and usually most formulas require some sort of round bracket. And if I put in the two round brackets, the first one is a closed round bracket, and the second one is, or the first one's an open round bracket, and the second one is a closed round bracket. Now if we press enter, it's going to be able to pull in today's date, which is now over here. And at the very top here, it also has the date. The nice thing about these little cells over here is if I'd like to expand a formula across multiple cells, what you can do is on the bottom right of each formula, you should see, or each cell rather, there's a little green dot there. If you click and you drag this dot, what this does is it repeats that equation throughout that particular column. And even if we typed in the date manually, let's say 9/30/2020, enter, it then pulls in the date like this. And if I pull it down, it will then repeat the date. But if you may notice over here, the formatting of my Excel is actually incorrect because it's pulling month first, then day, then the year. And this is just because of the way my PC is set up. You'll see over here, it's got 8/30/2020. So month, day, and then year. So to fix this, all you have to do is go into your settings. And in our settings over here, we need to change our region settings. So over here, if I just type in REG, I'm going to see here it says set regional format. I'll click on that. And over here, my PC is now not configured correctly. So I need to just make sure that the date here is set to, or the formatting is set to South Africa. And then over here, I'll change this to English South Africa. And in this case here, it's now set it up. It just tells me some apps may need to be closed and reopened to see the changes. And down here, I'm just looking at this. First day of the week is Sunday, short date, long date, and this is just based on the format up here. And now my Excel is giving me that. So I'll just double click in between these columns to make it wider. Because usually what happens is with Excel, if you keep seeing the hashes, it means that it can't see all the information in that cell. So if you click and you drag next to it, you can make the cell wide enough to actually see the information in there. Another shortcut of doing this is instead of clicking and dragging, we can double click in between the cells when you see the two arrows, one pointing left and one pointing right. Now, in that case there, I can see the information. So now it says 2020 09 30, and that's the date that I'm used to seeing. And as well over here, if I type in a currency, say 599, enter, it just shows it to me as a normal value. And if I select that, we can change this to currency. And because my PC is now set to South Africa, it's going to use a South African rand as the currency instead of US dollars or pounds, depending on what your format of your Excel was set to. And now we can see that information is populating there. Another thing to take note of is when you're working with Excel, if I type in 10, enter, this goes down, 20, enter. And now if I select the first cell, click and drag to highlight both of them, and I pull this arrow down, you'll see it actually starts to automatically fill with the steps that I've picked. So 10 to 20, that's a 10 difference. 20 to 30, that's another 10 difference, which then repeats that information again. Also, if I typed in 1, enter, 2, enter, highlight both of the cells with the click and drag, and I wait for the small plus on the bottom right, and I click and drag that. That then adds those next to each other. Now I've got 1 up until 5. And that is it for the part 2 of the videos. In the next part here, we'll be having a deeper look at equations and formatting of our Excel document. Welcome to part 3 of the Excel basics. Now, in this case here, other than the fact of being able to create your Excel document and also being able to type information into various cells, something else that's also very good with Excel is if you're typing in headings, we can select multiple cells at the same time. And let's say, for example, in A1, I wanted to type in, let's say, stock, for example. I type in enter, and I've maybe got 3 different rows of stock or something like that. You can still highlight multiple cells, and if 3 or 2 or more cells are highlighted, you can use this merge and center functionality. And with merge and center, this allows your cell to be one large cell spanning across 3 blocks. And in that case there, now I have stock all centered. And if I double click inside that cell, you could then type out more information that you needed to if you needed. And that is how you can join cells together. If you'd like to split them up again, you can just uncheck this merge cell option, and then your cell would be over here with all its information. This can be expanded or clicked and dragged to be collapsed. And that is how you can place your cells up here, and you can join them together with that merge cell and center. Quite a useful command. The next thing to have a look-see at is our ability to copy and paste information. Now, if you have information in a single cell, for example, let's say 1250, and I'd like to copy this information into cell C, you can click on your first cell that you'd like to copy the information from, or you can click and drag for a large selection. But in this case here, I'll just pick one. You can right click, and over here you've got the option to copy, and you'll see we'll have these little marching ants going around the cell. You can click in the next location, right click, and you can say paste. And over here, It's the first button over here. It's called paste. You click on that, and that's going to paste the information from that particular cell, like so. Now, in this case, I can continue selecting other cells, go right-click, paste, click another cell, right-click, paste. Or my personal taste is I'd like to use shortcuts instead of having to go through menus. I'll press undo, which is found at the top of the screen. Undo, 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 and undo. And I went too far back, so I can press the redo button to go forward. Now that I'm finished with the cell and I'm clicking elsewhere, you can still see the marching ants. To stop the marching ants, you can press escape on the keyboard, and then that cell is no longer being highlighted. Now the shortcut to copy is Control and C on the keyboard. You must make sure you're holding Control and you tap C to copy. Then you can select your cells and Control V to paste. Just to show you that again, Control C is to copy, click on another cell, Control V to paste. And that is going to highlight all of those cells there and paste the information into it. If you want to paste the same value multiple times, you can click on one cell, hold Control, click on another cell, click on another cell, click on another one, and you'll see it turns gray. And when you press Control V to paste, it's going to paste that value in all of the cells that were highlighted. Another way of working within Excel is cutting. And if you select your values with the click and drag, Control X on the keyboard will cut those items. And I'll click on one cell, Control V to paste. And the cut takes the information from one cell and pastes it into another cell. So Control C is for a simple copy. Click on one cell, paste. Or you could select the information from the cells, Control X to cut, pick a different cell, Control V to paste. And this will make you work a lot faster within Excel. In my case here, since I'd like to continue with the equations, I'd like to clear out this entire spreadsheet. The fastest way of doing that, or clearing out a single sheet, is I'll just use a shortcut Control A and delete, and then I'll click back here in cell A1. And that just deleted the information there. There are other shortcuts that you could have used, but in this case here, I just use a Control A to highlight all and delete on the keyboard. Now, if I wanted to add, let's say, people's dates. Let's go Albert, enter, Jane, Bob, Ross, Kim, Billy, Bill, and let's say Tom. In this case here, those are the names that I've typed out. And let's say I've got some values over here. And let's say I'd like to have the first value being 20, enter. Let's go 32, 42, 75, 35, 42, and 32. Let's say these are items that they've bought. And next to that column, this would be the price of the item. Let's say it is $2.30, enter, per item. What I can do here is I can click and I can drag next to it. That small green block, click and drag, pull it down. That then pulls through, let's say, the value of the item. Let me insert an extra row above this as well. And let's say I wanted to add in headings. So here at number 1, I can then just right click and say insert. And because I right clicked on the 1, it's going to insert an extra row. And had I right clicked here at the top and I said insert, it would then insert another column. But I don't want that extra column, so I'll just press Control Z to undo. And here at the top, I'm going to type in name, tab key to jump right. I'll say number, tab key, and then cost, tab, total, enter. Oh, total. Let's go back in there. Oopsie. Total, enter. There we go. Now, in this case here, I'd like an equation or some sort of formula so that I can have this value here, which is our cost, multiplied by this value here, which is the number of items. If I double click inside this, in order to start a formula, we can say equals first, and we can click on our first cell, for example, which is our number of items. So I'll click there, and you'll see there it says there 20, and over here it's got cost next to it. So this number times by, which is the asterisk key on your keyboard, it should be at number 8. So Shift 8 will give you asterisks. And we can click on this cell over here, C2, enter. Then that will give me a total value for those cells. And in this case here, because I want to get that formula all the way through there, we can click and we can drag, and you'll see it's going to take 32 times 230 is 7,360. I can continue and click and drag this down, and you'll see over here, it's then giving me those totals, which it's now adding up. So I got the number of items, the cost of the items, and the total over here. Then what I could also do over here is I can say total sales, enter, double click in this cell here, and I would like to add up the total sales over here of the whole column. If we said equals, clicked on the first one, plus this one, plus this one, plus, it would take forever to actually get that completed. So with Excel, what we can do is we can say equals sum, and that's the formula to add all the information in a column or in your cells, round bracket, and then this is what it's expecting, your first number, your second number, your third number, and so on. I want this entire range of cells. So I'll click here and I'll drag down, and you'll see now it says sum D2 colon D8. So it's going from cell D2 all the way up to cell D8, round bracket, enter. Now I've got the total sales being displayed in the cell here. And because we're referencing cells, if I change this number from 20 to 100, enter, the number here updates. And because this value here is the total of all of those together, this value here then also updates as well. Now we've got all the information coming from these cells here, and all we have to do is just worry about changing the individual numbers inside there. And then here it is updating dynamically. And that's how you can work with the sum option within Excel. The next cell to have a look at is, let's say, for example, I'm going to go over to my sheet 2 here at the very bottom, and I'll just click that just for a blank sheet. If you don't have a sheet 2 there, we could also right-click, delete these sheets. And if yours looks like this, you can just click on the plus there, and it's going to add in the next number for the sheet. Since I had 1, 2, 3, and I deleted those, when I add in the next one, this will be the fourth one being added. And on this sheet over here, my fourth sheet, I would like to create a custom ID. And in order to create a custom ID over here, we can use a very, very, very fancy formula called concatenate. Now, if I say equals concatenate, what this formula does, I've clicked out the cell, double click, concatenate, I'll double click on its name. And here, if I pick my name first, then you'll see this is the syntax, or basically how this formula should look. So text 1 will be this cell, colon, the second cell over here, colon, the third cell, colon, the date, round bracket, enter. Then if I double click over here, it's now given me some sort of customer ID. And even if I fill this with various names, was the 8th, and so on and so on. If I take my formula here and I drag it down, then it pulls out Bob Sid 2231, Sam Moss 3321, Bill Sanders 188. And all this is basically doing is it's pulling in the date and it's just putting those values next to each other without adding them or doing anything to them. If I'd like spaces inside the concatenate formula, then what would happen is cell A2 colon, then would put the inverted commas, then space, inverted commas again, colon, B2. And then this can be repeated wherever you want a space. Because what those inverted commas are doing is anything in between here will be taken as text. So if I said and, so colon, space, and, space, colon, what will happen then is it's now going to put the word and in between. So Bob and Sid, so on and so on. Sam and Moss, so on and so on. That's if you're placing some sort of text in between. You must start off with your colon and then your inverted colon, then whatever you would like to type, and then again inverted comma, sorry, and then colon once after. And that's for every time you'd like to have some sort of space. It could be left as blank like this, or if you have any sort of text you want to place in there. Because if you don't put in those inverted commas and you just type in text and space, Excel won't understand what you're looking for. It's not understanding what the formula is. So it's very, very important that you got your 2 inverted commas at the beginning and at the end of the text. But in my case here, I don't want that. I'm going to clear this up. Let's fill in my A1 again. And enter. There we go. And pull that through. So that's a really advanced formula if you wanted to have stuff like special customer IDs and so on and so on. Oopsie, the cell's not A1. It's actually A2 is where it must start. And then drag and drop this down. There we go. And now we've got some fancy customer IDs that we can actually generate automatically based on the information that we are entering. Something else that Excel can do is you could also just pull in, let's say, the first couple of letters. For example, if I said equals, and then I just say left, and I'm going to put around brackets. The text that I'm trying to pull is this, and it's a first left colon, 3 characters, round bracket, enter. Now, for this formula here, because it's called left, it's going to be digging into the first 3 letters, A, L, B. And then in that case there, that's going to be the ALB that it's pulling in through here. And if I click and drag this formula down, it's just pulling in the first 3 letters, which is a really, really nice formula, especially if you try to create stuff like passwords automatically for people. Something else we can do as well is not just that, but we can also type in right. And when you say right, enter, it's going to pull through the letters on the far right of the cell, RT, OB, AM, LL. And this can actually be used in conjunction with the other formulas as well. So in this case here, if you're trying to create an ID, let me highlight these cells and just say delete, escape on the keyboard, delete, there we go. Now in this case here with the concatenate, you could actually run formulas inside of other formulas. For example, let's say my first bunch of text over here can then be left, round bracket, this cell over here, colon, the number of characters. I just wanted to pull in the first two characters, round bracket, to close off the first left formula, round bracket again to close off concatenate, enter. Now all it has is AL. And if you want to edit your formulas up here, you're also more than welcome to do that. I could then highlight next to this, highlight all of these up until the first round bracket, Control C to copy. Then I can say colon, V to paste, which will be for surname, colon, V to paste, which will be for age, colon, V to paste, which might just be for date. But in this case here, because date and age are only two numbers, I can just clear the last two. And I can just click on the name age, colon, date. And now just to change this one over here, instead of looking under A2, we're already pulling in the first name here. We'll be looking at B2, the surname. So I'll just change this to B2. And round brackets to close that off. There we go. And if I pull this down, now I could have something like a password. So it's got the first two letters of the surname, of the name, first two letters of the surname, and then a number after that. And that is how you can use the formula concatenate, which is very, very useful within Excel. In the next part of our videos, we'll be having a deeper look at other equations that you use more often within Excel. Thank you for watching. Hi, my name is Albert, and in this video, we'll be having a look at a couple of formulas or ways that you could actually calculate how much an event would cost you. Now, in this case here, we have estimates in the one column and the actual cost in the other column. And in this case here, if you'd like to actually add up all these values, like we saw earlier, we could use the formula equals. And in this case here, we'd like to add all of these columns together. So we can say sum, which will add all of these cells. Round bracket, we'll start from our first number, click and drag down. And then we'll say round bracket again and enter. Now we've got the total estimate for our site. And in this case here, to repeat that, we can just click, drag to the right, and let go, and that will add up that column. And we can do the same thing for the column beneath that, equals sum, round bracket, our values, round bracket. And again, I'll select it and bring it to the next area. And if you wanted to, you could also copy, click on a cell, paste, and in this case here, it's going to add up those sums, or these cells over here. I'm just going to help it find the correct area by clicking and dragging on this corner and bringing it down. Drag that to the right. Copy this chap, paste it over here. Ensure that it's adding up the whole column. Drag this to the right. And if I wanted to, we could also highlight both of these cells and paste them in here. Always double click just to make sure that the correct cells are being copied and the correct information is being placed. Again, I'm double clicking and just increasing the size of this box. And then finally, the last two, copy, paste that, double click to select. It's pulling in too many values, bring the box shorter, and same thing for these other values there. There we go. Now, in this case here, for the total expenses, we'll say equals sum, round bracket, Then we can select this guy here, colon on the keyboard, this guy here, colon, this guy, colon, this cell, colon, this cell, colon, this cell, colon, this cell, colon. And in fact, since that's the last one, F25 here, I'm just going to backspace and just have a round bracket, enter. Then that will pull in my total over here. And I'll say equals again, sum, round bracket, and I'll just pick the last ones. Colon, colon, click, colon, click, colon, click, colon, click, colon, click, and round bracket, enter. And then this is the estimate here on the left, the total estimate, and that is the actual value here on the right. So now we've got all of that. Then if we move on to the next sheet here at the bottom, this is our income sheet. We'll see over here, it's got the estimate, and then the actual, and then the price. I'll double click here on estimate. I'll say equals the estimated value or estimated number of admissions multiplied, so asterisk key, and I'll select on this cell over here. Enter. Now I can see it's 7,000, and I can drag this down, and it should then start calculating on the other cells as well. So 42 times by VIP at 50 Rand, that gives us then 2,100. And then for the actual, same thing must happen there, equals actual amount multiplied by the price per ticket. Then we can also drag this down over here to get our actual value. And then same thing for these guys here, equals first number multiplied by covers. Drag that down. And in this case here, first value, first cell equals this value here times by 50, enter, and I'll just pattern this down. There we go. And then equals this value times by this value, enter, drag it down. Finally, this value over here multiplied by this value, enter, drag this down, and then there we go. Then we can do it for the final area here as well. And now that we have that, at the very top here, we've got total income, which is all of these guys here added together. And then we have our actual income here on the right, which is all of these cells added together. Then over here, we've got another sheet that's got our profit and our loss summary. In this case here, for our total income, I'll say equals, this is our total estimated income. I can go to a different sheet. So I just click on a separate sheet. Then over here, I can pull through an estimated income, enter, which then pulls through this value. And I can say this value over here is now 14,360. And for our actual, we can say equals again, head over to income, click on actual income, and enter. Then that's going to pull through that value there. So you can actually reference information from two completely different sheets just by going equals, head over to the expenses, and then here's our estimated expenses, equals once more, actual expenses. And now in this case here, this cell is just saying B6 minus B7 to give us our total profit or loss based off of these estimates. And then the actual over here is based off of the actual values that we would have seen on that day. If you'd like to create a graph from this item, all you have to do is just click and drag to select the cells you'd like a graph for. Here are the headings, estimate and actual, and then these are also the other headings over here for income and total expenses. Now to create the graph, you just have to head over to the Insert tab here at the very top of the screen. And then here you've got various charts to pick from. This recommended charts button will allow you to go through and see which charts would actually work with your data. And you can see it in real time here on the sides to see which chart is the best to use. If you say all charts, it will show you every single chart available. But in our case over here, we'll just head over to the charts area, and there's a small drop down button over here. It's got 2D columns. I'll click on this clustered column over here, and I can click and drag that over there. And now we can see what our estimates are and what the actual values are. So our total income estimated versus the actual. And that is how you can actually create a graph and link your data together between multiple sheets. Hi, in this final video, we'll be having a look at our employee absence schedule. Now, in this case here, what we have is this is using conditional formatting as well as the totals for however many blocks have been filled in. So in this case here, it's using count A, and it's counting whatever blocks have been filled is what count A does. And other than that, we also have the totals for each vacation day, sick days for that particular day. So on Wednesday, we only had one person being absent, whereas on Monday, we had two people being absent. Now, in this case here, what I'll do is I'm going to add in an extra column over here, which I'll call this vacation days. And let's just put a space in between here, and let's just double click in between this column. There we go. Now that I have vacation days over here, I'd like to know how many vacation days have been taken in this particular month. So in order to do this, we'll say equals, and now I'd like to know count if, so count if, round brackets, the range starts here at 1 all the way till the 31st of that month, colon. Now it's counting between the first month all the way to the second month, colon. And the criteria is going to be inverted comma, V, inverted comma, round bracket, enter. Now this is now counting in all the vacation days that were taken by my first employee. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. By my second employee, I'm looking through here. 1, 2, 3. There's 3, 0, 3, and 0. And what Excel has done here is it's actually automatically filled out my information. And if I'd like to know a total of vacation days, I can highlight my cell, and like I showed earlier, we can click on this quick analysis, and I can go to totals, and I'd like to know the sum of that. And that's going to be 14 days in total that my employees took vacation days for. I could also do this for personal as well. So personal total, enter. And in this case over here, this text looks horrible. So I'm going to change its color to white. There we go. And for this column, I'll just double click. And in this case here, I'll do the same thing. So equals count if round bracket, where are we counting from? We're counting from the first day all the way across to the last day. And I'll put in my semicolon. And the criteria, I'm looking for anywhere where there's P. So I'll use inverted comma, P, inverted comma, round bracket, enter. And in this case here, they've only taken one personal day, one personal day, one personal, one personal. And I'll highlight all of these, click on my quick analysis, totals, and here I'll just say sum. And that's automatically inserting my sum option there. And then there we go. Now we've got our personal total, vacation days, and the total days taken off. So that's just one way of working with your information that you have in Excel. And here at the very bottom, we just got different sheets for the various months that we could fill out for our employees. Now, if you'd like to print out your table, this table here is already using some sort of format. So if I were to highlight this and I go to the design area here at the very top, they've got various table styles that you could have picked from. But I'm pretty much happy with the one it's coming with. I'll just select this last area here. I'll go to home, and I'm just going to ensure that it is using this color over here, and my text over here is going to be white text. And let's say I'm happy with the way this looks and I'd like to print this out. You can head over to File, Print, pick your printer. I'll just say Microsoft Print to PDF, and that's going to pull through our sheet that is going to be printing on, and it says Active Sheets. If I say Print Entire Workbook, it's going to print every single workbook. As I scroll down, you'll see it's got March, April, May. I'll scroll all the way back to the top again. That's just scrolling up. So that's going to be printing out the whole workbook, your entire Excel document with all the pages in it. Just go back to page 1. Then over here, we also have the option here for our orientation. Is it landscape? Is it portrait? And also the size of the piece of paper. Is it an A4 sheet, A2, A1, A0? And then here we also have our margins that are going to be around that sheet. So you can either have really thick margins around it or very, very narrow margins, depending on the type of printer you have. Or if we click on the drop down, we can also head over to custom margins, and inside custom margins, we can center this both horizontally and vertically on our screens. And now this worksheet has been centered on the screens. And also over here, we've got scaling options. If I say no scaling, it leaves everything as is. If I say fit on one page, it's going to try and squash the information to fit on a sheet. Fit all columns on one page. This just depends on how you actually like your document to then fit on each particular sheet. But in my case here, I'm going to set this on fit on one sheet. So all my information is visible. And also here at the very bottom, you have page setup. And with the page setup over here, it just gives you various options that you can set up your margins, footers, and sheets. So it just depends on if you guys have footers or not. And once we say OK, I've now inserted footers on the top and on the bottom of that page. Then once this is all done, and you've got your sheets there, you could then say print, and this will then begin printing it out depending on where you'd like to print to, saving out these PDFs. I'll just call this employee save. And now it's going to cook up my employee sheets, saving out each and every single one of those pages onto a PDF document, which I could then view at a later stage, depending on where that's saved to. Now let me open up this file, and there's page 1, page 2, page 3, and so on and so on, with the various information that you could have printed out, just depending on what exactly it is that you're looking for. And that is our quick crash course through Excel. And please remember that at the very top over here, we do have formulas that exist automatically within Excel. So if you click on the drop down here, we've got sum, average, count number, minimum, and maximum. So let's say, for example, we wanted to have an average number of days that was taken, for example, on total. So here I could just go through, let's click in here, and let's go auto sum. And in this case, I'll just say average. I'm not too sure why it's blank. average, round bracket from here to here, round bracket, enter. And now I've got an average of 5.4 days, which are taken in total by my employees. And just as an extra tip or a trick, up here at the very top, you do have this formulas area here, and this has got all the recently used formulas that you have, any financial formulas, logic, so if this and that. You also have text formulas over here, date, lookup, mathematics that you can run, as well as any additional formats for statistical, engineering, and so on and so on. So these are actually quite good to have, as well as various functions that you can also pull through as well. Like for example, if I wanted to get the average number of days here, I can just double click on a cell, say equals, and I'll say average, round bracket, from the top to the bottom over here, round bracket, enter. And now it just tells me that I've got an average of 5.4 days for this particular month of sick leave happening. And you also have vacation days as well, and your personal total, which you can also do the exact same for, just depending on what exactly it is you're looking for. So it's a very, very good idea to make use of the options within Excel. If you're not too sure of specific commands, you can always go up here. There's a tell me what you want to do area, and you can start typing in the command that you're looking for. So if I say count, then it's going to tell us, okay, cool, here is count, and there's also actions that you can also take depending on what it exactly it is that you'd actually like to count. Or here I could say print, and this will just tell us what we need to do. If I click on print, it's going to start printing out my actual layout. It's a very, very nice thing to have here inside Microsoft. But yes, that is basically a crash course right the way through of Excel from the beginning up until the end. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section below.